we not only need to move the striker, we need to move the door, and the problem with that is the bolts go in this way, and I'm thinking we're probably going to need to take the guard off. So welcome back to Extra. So today I'm actually going to show you a bit about Darren's coupe, known as Blackman's coupe, on my page, and there's a whole build series on the Facebook page with the 400 odd photos of when we did this, and everyone knows Darren that works with me, and this was his car that we finished 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was a bit over a 12-month build. At that point Darren wasn't working for me, so he came and worked with me, did most of the work, but he came and worked with me and we did the whole build. And tell us about the car, mate, where you found it and what it is.
It was found under a carport up near Penrith. Been sitting under there for over 10 years. I think the last Summernat sticker was on the dash, was the last time it was driven, was Summernat's 26 or something like that. And yeah, it's one of 4 coupes painted blaze blue, and at the time I had another blaze blue unrestored.
So just to let everyone know, Darren's a blaze blue man, so all his cars are blue. Since I've known him, all your cars have been blue.
Yeah,
yep.
Yeah, all of them. And yeah, I wanted to restore it, so to have an unrestored and a restored how I wanted it. And basically Howard was the man, and this is our finished product.
And of course what happened is you only ended up with the one, because we all know that the cost with any of these things blows out.
Yes.
And not even from a wage point of view, just the whole cost to build the car.
Yeah.
So the restored one had to go to make way for this one effectively.
And I think 3 or 4 other cars as well.
So we all know that, you know, we start these things. So when we originally built it, and it went to the Summernats, whatever year that was when we finished it, so it was the usual thrash to get it done, and then we took it there, made top 60.
Yep.
But at that stage had a Hillborn injected for
420.
420
yeah.
From Shane's Race Engines, and Darren had actually converted that to electronic himself, so there was a lot of work gone into actually making that work, and in the end turned out to be a major headache that, I don't know, did you actually ever get it solved, or was it one of those things that just was never ending?
I think it was 80% solved. A lot of the issue I think was the computer we chose. It was an Ultronic SM4 where we should have just went, yeah, the computer system.
Well, I mean, it's grown a lot. The last 10 years, you know, technology has changed so much in doing that fuel injection. I know when I did my blown card back in the 90s, you know, we were with Motec trying to do something unusual. Today, what we did is quite simple with the processors that are available and the computers that are available. So just the process of that, it even had the manifold went back to the States to Hillborn to have some issues in relation to butterflies and that rectified.
Yeah.
So a lot of time went in, and of course now that you're making the move and all the rest of it, and you probably want to put some miles on it, you've gone back to the matching number.
Yeah, I've gone back to matching number, carby, something that I can fix on the side of the road, have half a dozen spares in the boot, and yeah, don't have to have anybody else fiddle with it basically.
Yep, so besides the engine, it's got a C4 behind that, and then a 9-inch, and I think we end up with a strange centre by memory.
Yes.
And then a full stainless 3-inch exhaust. And the front end's RS, power rack, and then the RS brakes. So we've got the actual RS caliper that they made,
yes.
And the square ones on the rear as well.
Yep.
But what I really wanted to do today was to actually show people 7 years on a car that at this level, things still happen and change, and there's a few things we're going to have a play with while the car's having a rest here. One of those is Darren's got to get the fuel system back to a bit more normal from the electronic that was all fitted for the injected. But in addition to that, there's just a few things that, you know, the bonnet adjustment over here on the guard, there's something I'll show you there, and the door adjustments and those sorts of things, that really is part and parcel of maintaining a car of this level, because they're just, even sitting in the shed, they're still going to need work to look after them. So when this was done, our aim was to actually have the engine bay to all look original. And you'll see there's some wires in that uncovered, because fortunately Darren left all of the original wiring in the loom, and he's just had to untape some of that now to find the wires for the distributor and the coil, I presume, because
yes.
It was all electronic before.
Yeah.
So this has been redone in the factory late XB, because that looks like XC colour to me. So late XB XC had that sort of blue.
Yes. Yeah.
And the rest of it that you're looking at is all 7 years old now.
Mm.
So, you know, from the point of view of looking up here, You know, all the CAD, all that sort of stuff's looking real good in my eye. And some of the things that I see is, you know, some of the CAD that's facing upwards, and if the bonnet's been up or they're exposed to the air a bit more, they can tend to go off a bit because it is a CAD plating, like a zinc coating. So it's not like chrome or paint where it can deteriorate a bit. But I mean, I reckon it's looking pretty good for 7 years old. So we're just going to adjust the bonnet a bit. So what do you got left to do under here, mate? Just pretty much fuel?
Fuel and power for the starter, and it should crank.
Okay, so the actual starter wire rather than the main wire?
I haven't looked into it.
You haven't got the starter yet?
No.
Yeah, so it had a big high torque starter in it?
Yeah, it's still got the starter in it, but when I disconnected the computer, there was wires going under the dash to relays and stuff like that, so I've still got to sort that out.
Okay. Because there was a whole lot going on now. I know I'll try and add some photos into this with some of the things we were doing, trying to get everything to talk to each other leading up to Summer some years ago. So just looking around the car, I mean, it's still looking pretty flash, but some of the things that happen just as part of the process, you can see the door here where the stripes don't quite line up. And the problem with the Coupe is the doors, Darren's got it locked, the problem with the doors is they're very long. You just want to pop the button on that. So the doors are very long, and with the weight, they naturally tend to want to sag. And to fix this properly, we probably need to take the guard off it. And I spoke to Darren about that this morning, that we may end up doing that. Because like at the moment, that opens and closes quite nicely. If we lift the striker plate up on the body to bring that back up to where it needs to be for everything to line up, it's not going to close like it does now. So we not only need to move the striker, we need to move the door. And the problem with that is the bolts go in this way. And I'm thinking we're probably going to need to take the guard off. So that's going to be part of the deal. Up to Darren how far he wants to go, but we probably need to take the grill out and the bumper off to fix something else that I'll show you on the other side. And if we've done that, we may as well take the guard off, adjust this door properly, and that should stay where it is for a long time. Sometimes when you've got that everything painted, so the A-pillar's painted, the actual hinge is painted, that they tend not to grab as tight as they should do. So it may have just, the paint may have moved that's allowed that door to drop. So those sort of things happen. And if we go back over the other side, Darren can tell you about this one, but we've been talking on the main show about the XC, about these, how much of a pain they are. And you can see over this side that down here, it's actually stepped away. So what's happened there, mate?
So when the car's been moved, it's been pushed around the garage or something like that. It's been leant on and it's just moved it just under its own weight. So someone giving your hands basically pushed on the nose cone rather than the bumper. Yeah, and it's just moved it.
And once again, it's two painted surfaces, and it's got a very small, I think they're an 8mm nut by memory, that there's about 4 little screws in there that hold that together. It's just slipped on the paint. But the difficulty is to get to that now, we've got to get in here, and to get in there we need the grill out. To get the grill out we need to get the bumper off, and we snowball. Righto, so in here you've obviously got stuff to do with the fuel, and clearly it is a, what's the word? It's full of. So what I like about this car is just how nice it looks in here. You know, all this sort of stuff, the factory stickers. I mean, I just get excited about this stuff in here is the hard bit. You know, we can all get this to look nice, but in here, and that all come from Darren's work with the steel, and I was involved in that a bit as well. And then all of that filler, and more so with this sort of car, you'll see on Boss XC where we're doing that, this gets filled up and welded, where this is all factory, and that's actually harder to do than a show car because it's got to be right, and it's got to have the sealer in there and then get painted. And then you really can't go in and polish it, so it's got to come off the gun really good. And I mean, all of that is really holding up really good. And then people that know these sorts of cars, the boots tend not to shut real well. You can see that rubber, how tight that's been, and it's actually now matured, and the rubber's sitting down nice and flat, but here where it needs the extra gap, it's sitting up. And one of the little tricks we learnt doing these cars is, from the factory, there's little air holes in the back of the rubber. Because once you glue that rubber together and make it one piece, it's like a cushion. And if the air can't get out, then the rubber holds the boot lid up. So what we do is we get a punch, a sharp punch, like a hole punch, and go along and twist it and put a hole all the way around, so when the boot shuts, the air comes out and it takes the pillow effect away and just turns it into a rubber. Then over time it will settle so that it looks really good. But mate, it's looking awesome.
Yeah, it's been under a cover for a long time.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, all these years on, people often wonder. So this boot lid had the skin off it, and I think by memory we welded a lot of holes up in that.
Yes.
So that's in all those photos that we've got on the Facebook page. But what I look at, you know, 7 years on, inside and outside, it's still looking really good. The other thing with a coupe that people would know is this here is one of the most difficult areas to get really nice. And I can remember, I don't know where I was away for a day or so, and Dale was working here then, and I come back in the windscreen then and I went, how did that happen? And Dale and Darren had put that in on their own, and I think first go.
It fell in, and yeah, it was unbelievable.
And I know 400, we had a professional windscreen guy here, and it took us 3 goes to get it in to look like that. So it's all about pre-fit and making it work, and I'm really rapt to see that it's still looking good. Righto, mate, so tell us a bit about the interior. So what was the factory spec, and what did we ended up with?
The car come with just black vinyl from factory. I always liked white with cloth trim. I didn't want to go the original route, white with black cloth. Some of the dealer options, they had coloured trim in inserts, and I found this trim insert that's very similar to some of the styles that was used by some of the dealers in the day.
So the stripes on the outside, that's what, McLeod Ford?
Yes.
Yeah, so McLeod Ford had a whole promo thing, because I've seen the brochures and stuff you had. So what was that all about?
That was just, you could order the car with all different various options, stripes. They'd do seat inserts, mags and stuff like that.
Twin systems, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So this was really about trying to recreate what was done in the 70s when these cars were new and they were sitting on the lot. And believe it or not, back in the day, they couldn't sell coupes.
No.
They sat on the lot and no one wanted to buy them. And the reason we ended up with the Cobras is Ford had 500 shells, supposedly the story goes, so they decided to make the Cobra to get rid of them. So the dealers did what they could to make them more appealable to the market. And of course, you've ended up with the stripes, which you ended up getting out of England, I believe.
The insert material?
Insert material?
Yes. Yeah, that come from the UK. There was greys that were available here, but the blue I'd never seen before.
And that was out of a bus? Railway?
I don't know. I just ordered
Mini minor.
It was maybe. It was just a couple of metres of material that somebody had, and
always reminded me of a bus that's on that, just paying out. But I mean, it's come up, and I've never been a white trim guy, but I mean, I actually, having worked on this car, I like it, and I'm having a bit of a feeling to maybe go down that way with my own car with the van, because black trim's nice, but you end up with this black hole of Calcutta.
Yes.
I mean, when we did Cool Mint, the car looked awesome, but if you tried to photograph it or you just looked inside, all you seen was black.
Yeah.
So I think the advantage of the lighted trim is it really picks up the interior, and you can obviously work with the black carpet and the consoles and all that to give it a nice feel. And then the same with the hood lining. You know, the later models all come with the cream. You can go to the black hood lining with the white trim.
Yeah.
So door trim wise, so these are pretty much GT.
Yes.
Yeah, so the GT had the carpet on the bottom.
Yep.
And then on XB, some of them only had the door trim to about here, wasn't it? So the Falcon 500 didn't go all the way down, and then the GT did. So it's a bit of a mixed match. It's what Darren wanted, his car, his choice. Tell us about the sunroof, mate.
I've always wanted a sunroof in a coupe. I've had previously in an XY, and yeah, it was going to always have a sunroof, even though it wasn't optioned with one. And
so the guy helping you with the bodywork, a bloke we both know, got it really, really good.
It was a really nice roof.
Really nice roof. I put a lot of work into that, and then we had to cut a hole in it. And Darren did a wonderful job of actually making it all original. So all those edges are turned down. Darren had actually made up some timbers to be able to do that. There's guys out there now that do that, but back when we were doing it was something we had to do. So it now has a sunroof, and I'm not a sunroof fan, Darren is, so his car gets a sunroof.
Exactly.
So thanks for joining us again for Astill Design Extra. I'm going to keep trying to bring you interesting stuff, different cars, different cruise days, all those sorts of things. Thanks Darren for a bit of insight, and we might bring a few more bits and pieces as we make some adjustments on this, get it all running with that matching number engine so you can take it down the coast.